Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum. Welcome, dear students and listeners, to this class. This is the fifth class on morphology. Last time, if you remember, we talked about the morphemes and how they function in the language, whether they are prefixes, suffixes, interfixes, or circumfixes, as we saw with different examples. Today, we are going to start with another type of morphemes, which is called the interleaving morphemes. Typically, interleaving morphemes, as we all know, are called interleaving morphemes because they are called discontinuous morphemes, which is a type of morpheme or morphemes that is not a single continuous morpheme or unit, but is instead broken up and, let's say, interspersed within another morpheme or word structure. This phenomenon is especially common in the Semitic languages, or let's say the non-concatenative morphology or languages, where the words are formed not just by adding affixes linearly, whether they are prefixes or suffixes, but by altering the melody or the root of the word itself. The classic example comes from, as we said, Arabic. Let's have example from the root ka, ta, ba. This heavy consonantal language, which is Arabic, has the ka, ta, ba, three consonants with the meaning of writing. Now comes the role of the interleaving morpheme to make the roots often consist of this what's so-called consonantal templates. Consonantal templates. Now, when we talk about a consonantal template, we mean there are three consonants, and the meaning is conveyed by interleaving the vowels. By interleaving the vowels, or by the interleaving vowels, or any additional morphemes in this language. So, for ka, ta, and ba, we have kitaba, katib, kitaba, writing, katib, writer, maktab, office, miktab, typewriter, kataba, he wrote, kataba, he corresponded with, maktaba, library, and kutubi, which is book seller. Here we notice, dear students, the consonants are maintained with kataba, but here there is a kind of alternation in the vowel system between e, long, short, short vowel, long, short, 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 and so on and so forth. So here the idea of interleaving vowels is clear when we have such examples like this. Maybe other examples, as in case marking in Russian, and we all know that Russian is a very rich in terms of the level of inflection, which is case, because Russian represents more than 7 case inflections or markers. Here we have for the word hand, right? When it is in the nominative case, it is ruk-a with a suffix a, accusative ruk-u, genitive ruk-e, dative ruk-a, dative ruk-a, locative ruk-a, instrumental ruk-uj, right? So we have here, we have suffixes, they fall with at the end of the word, they are suffixes, and they alternatively reflect different case marking in this language. Another type of morphemes that we are here having in this class, the so-called null morphemes. We know that null means empty at the spell out, which is not spelled out after derivation. Actually, it is available as a kind of feature-based representation. So a null morpheme, as we all know, it is a morpheme that is realized by phonologically null affix, which is called empty string of phonological segments. So null morpheme is a kind of invisible, you cannot see it affix. It is called zero morpheme. So the null morpheme is represented as either zero like this or empty with five features. So here, for example, when we look at the cat, right, as Alexium, it is cat, right? And when it is singular, also it is cat, but with a kind of zero morpheme representing say, singularity or singular form or singular level. With a plural at the spell out, the plural marker is overt or explicit. So we have cats and we have here cats, right? So this means, dear students, that null morphemes, they are not spelled out at the phonological level. They do not have any phonological realization, but they have a kind of mental representation. In French here, we have a kind of example to uh, forming nouns from adjectives, which is a kind of derivational process. So here we have conform, which means conform, adjective, conform, or conform, sorry, in English, conformate, right? We have eat, which is the noun derivational suffix, legal, adjective for legal, legalite, also, legitim, which is adjective, legitimate, right? And then we have the suffix eat added to the end of the word as a kind of derivational suffix, okay? English here has a kind of problematic types of morphemes slash roots, right? So here we call them roots or affixes, right? Actually, it is a kind of a problematic issue of what to call them. So here we have biogeography, right? You have biogeography, bioethics, bioengineering, biorhythm, bioterrorism, biomedicine, and biochip. So here we have bio in the beginning or in the initial position. We have aristocrat, autocrat, democrat, bureaucrat, plutocrat, technocrat, and theocrat. We have also the form crat. So here, as we notice, dear students, it is really hard what to call it. Is it to call it a root because it stands it is meaningful, it has full meaning, full features, logical features. It is a root, but unluckily, it is always bound. It cannot stand by itself. So it is a kind of affix. So it is a kind of really problematic issue. So some, as we said, regard them as affixes because they do not occur as independent lexemes, but their meaning is pervasive. Some suggest that they are roots because they have a special property of occurring in compounds. So some call them affixes. I would go with the idea that they are roots, right? Because they are systematically used in the forms in the initial or final position with meaning, and also they are productive in different lexical forms. We have other examples like socio, psycho, geo, graph, path, scope, and so on and so forth. So these forms support maybe the argumentation that I have in terms of they should be regarded as roots, not suffixes. So I would go with the idea that they are called roots for many reasons. The first reason is that they are semantically full. They are okay. They are bound or okay, and also they are predictive. They are predictive. We can see them occurring with different forms. Okay. Now let's move to English derivational forms, right? So or affixes. We have suffixes change examples, right? So we have here we will have the following. First, all of them are suffixes. They occur at the end of the word. Two, they are derivational. They change the part of speech in the final position. So here we can have also more than one suffix doing the same job. So here for able or able, fixable, from fix, from verb into adjective. L, refuse, refusal, then verb into a noun. Ation, realize, verb into realization. Full, from noun into adjective. Faith, faithful. Eyes, from noun into verb. Hospital, hospitalize. Eyes also changes not a noun but an adjective. Modern into modernize. Eight, active, activate, from adjective into verb. In, from adjective into a verb. Black, blacken, hard, harden. Well, finally, we have ness, which converts the adjective into a noun. If we look at here, we see that systematically that most of them are verbs, right? Adjective, two adjectives, and three nouns. So we have adjectives, nouns, and verbs. So these are the recurring outputs for the derivational affixes or suffixes. Also, English actually has other examples of derivational prefixes, which is really interesting because here derivational suffixes, prefixes, sorry, uh, D as in activate, deactivate, verb, verb, this continue, discontinue, verb, verb, re, verb, verb, think, rethink, untie, untie, adjective, unhappy, unhappy, in, adjective, adjective, competent, incompetent, anti or anti, noun, noun. We notice, dear students, that there is a kind of harmony and systematic change, which prove the idea that there is no change from A to B, but rather from A into A. And still we call them derivational. Actually, here, maybe the question is uh, despite the fact that there is no change in the part of speech, I mean verb, 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 now verb, 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 adjective, 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 noun, noun, yet we call them derivational. And typically, when we call a change derivational, we mean that it changes, the change is, as we said, the change is from A into B. But here, the example at hand is A into A or B into B, C into C. Here we notice that there is no change. How come we call them derivational? In order to answer this, dear students, we need to expand our theory into further points to the architecture of the mind, of the lexicon, where if we look into the how the how morphology is organized in the brain or in the mind, sorry, we can find the answer. The answer, dear students, is or comes from the entries that are saved in the mind. So the entry for V here, the entry for V here, so the entry for V here, so the entry for here, let's call 1 and call this 2. So the in the mind, in the lexicon, the entry for the V here, which is activate, is different from the entry stored in the lexicon with deactivate. So after spell out, after phonology, both are verbs. But before phonology, when we look at the features, we find that the entry that activate occupies in the lexicon is dissimilar and different from the entry that deactivate occupies in the lexicon. So to the lexicon, to the mind at the psychological level, deactivate is A, sorry, activate is A, and deactivate is B, right? So it is not the same. They should look differently. They should look, sorry, different, right? So here we say that, okay, so we say that activate here is A, while deactivate is B. So this comes from how morphology or how these forms, complex words, are stored and organized in the lexicon. The same applies to the rest of these forms. So do we have or can we have other extended views towards the affixes? Yes, of course we have, traditionally speaking, we have li, which changes adjective into adverb quickly, changes a noun into adjective, friendly, ness, which changes the ness adjective into a noun, al, which changes a noun into adjective, rationale, and v, a verb into noun, dismissal, able, which is the same, readable, eyes, rationalize, a noun into a verb, subsidize, creolize, Asian, change, rationalize, verb into noun, rationalize, rationalization, verb into a verb, undo, untie, adjective, happy, unhappy, and the verb into a verb, do, redo, readjust, rewind. Okay. So the rule here in notation is that adjective plus li becomes adverb, adjective plus ness becomes noun, and verb plus able becomes adjective. Okay. So here we notice that it is a kind of a traditional view. Here, after the spell out, they are derivational, and when we say adjective plus ly becomes verb, it is a, B, it is A, and here B, and it is A and B. So it is easy actually to recognize how the change works. Okay. Okay, now let's move to the formal operations. When we say formal operations, okay, we mean the operations that take place in the language and they represent or they motivate a change in the language. These operations are called formal because they can be distinguished easily and they can apply to the structure of the language, to the history of the language, to the use of the language, and so on and so forth, and they are predictable. So these operations are represented in two levels. So we have level one is called the diachronic, synchronic operations. Diachronic are diachronic change, which let's say pursues the historical change of the language, a change that has taken place in the language in two different periods of time. So here we have a change of the history of the language, like a great vowel shift, for example, semantic shift, syntactic shift, Grimm's laws, and so on, Werner's laws. All these represent the diachronic. Synchronic change refers to the geographical change, the change that takes place in two different places within one period of time. So here, when we talk about, so here comes diachronic versus synchronic, comes the investigation of the history of languages, comparative, contrastive linguistics, and so on and so forth, in order to, let's say, to investigate the history of a certain form, reaching up to the so-called prototypes of the language. Another level of operations is called concatenative, non-concatenative. Simply speaking, when we talk about concatenative, we talk about linear change, where we have a change of affixation in general, whether suffixation, prefixation, and so on and so forth, and non-concatenative, which is called the hierarchical change, right? So with the hierarchical change, we assume that there is a kind of internal change in the vowel system, internal change in the vowel system. We have seen this in this class or in this presentation with Arabic, for example, when we say كتب, كاتب, كتب, مكتب, and so on and so forth. These are changes, man, men, woman, women, and so on and so forth. But with concatenative, no, it is the roots, the vowel system is maintained. We just add either a prefix as in do, read, do, or suffix as in read, readable. So here we have two patterns of change. One is concatenative, non-concatenative, diachronic versus synchronic changes. Okay. Okay. Now let's move to examples represented by or representing the this formal operations class. One part of or one example, which is called compounding. Compounding, as we know, it is a kind of derivational process where two or more word forms are joined together to come up with a new form, like skate and board become skateboard, white and wash become whitewash, self and help, self-help, pocket and pickpocket. So here we have A plus B becomes C, right? This, I mean C, which means that both pick A and pocket B become pickpocket C. And of course, this needs more and more investigation to see how, to what degree we can predict the meaning of the discrete or single elements of the compound, or to what degree we can, how we can know the meaning of each individual word in one compound to lead to the overall meaning of the whole compound. Now let's move to another type of these operations, which is called conversion or zero derivation, which is also called a functional shift. Here in this process, actually, no affixes are added, but a word is used instead of for another word. The same word, sorry, is used to function in another category, like for example, comb, right? Like the noun comb, which is used now as a verb to comb. So here it is a noun, and here it is verb. Actually, we changed the part of speech. but there is no morpheme, or there is no marker that let's say uh, that tells us about whether it is a verb or a noun. It is just a kind of zero derivation. We have different examples, like right here. We have comb, sand, knife, butter, referee, proposition, hammer to hammer, shout to shout, shovel to shovel, wax to wax, and so on and so forth. So we notice that the same word is maintained, but the category has, has gained another function. So instead of having one noun only, it becomes a noun and a verb. And this, of course, has the blessing of uh, being productive. With this, the language becomes productive. Another example, dear students, is the so-called stress shift. As we all know that English loves stress, and stress is functional in English. Stress is very important as a suprasegmental feature in English. It does change the meaning. It occupies a huge amount of investigation levels if we, in English, unlike other languages like Arabic, for example, which doesn't have that much uh, stress phenomenon in it, despite the fact that there are two views in terms of whether Arabic has stress or not. But typically, for the time being, it is sufficient to say that English is a stress-based language, unlike Arabic. So here in stress, dear students, we do not have any affix added either as a prefix or a suffix, but the stress pattern or stress location moves from one syllable into another, causing, of course, a change in the category. So here, like a noun into a verb, here a noun into a verb. So we have combine, implant, implant, rewrite, rewrite, transport, transport. So here we notice that the stress location moves from the first syllable into the second syllable. So this is clear in combine, implant, rewrite, and transport. Other examples like moving or changing from noun into adjective with concrete, concrete, abstract, abstract, right? So here also the stress moves from one place to another. So the conclusion is that stress is important in English, causing a change in the category. Another example or level of presentation here is called clipping. When we talk about clipping, dear students, we talk about shortening of polysyllabic words. If we have a multi-syllabic word, sometimes this multisyllabic word is shortened. So, i.e., when we say shortened, um, some parts, uh, some parts or syllables are let's say are cut or shortened. So the word brother, right? The word brother becomes bro. The word professional becomes pro. The word professor becomes prof. The word mathematics becomes math. The word vegetate becomes veg, right? So uh, what I'm going to say now does apply to the rest of all the data at hand. It is ease of articulation, ease of articulation, right? So people tend to do these things to make their language easy and let's say practical, because the people use it as a kind of a means of communication. Here, another example is called acronym. So acronym formation So when we talk about acronyms, dear students, we have different words used together as referring to a certain entity, and for also ease of articulation. For ease of articulation, these initials are collected together and we use them to refer to these entities. Sometimes they are capitalized, sometimes they are not capitalized, and also sometimes these initials are produced as one word if the phonotactics of the language allows for this. When we say phonotactics, dear students, when we say phonotactics means the laws of the language, of the language. What do we mean by this? We mean the laws that determine what is permissible and what is impermissible, right? What is allowed, what is not allowed or disallowed, what is possible, what is not possible in this language. This is what we mean by phonotactics. So, for example, for the word national aeronautics and space administration is or has or bears the acronym NASA. So English allows for CVC. English allows for the CVCV articulation, so we produce it as a word. The same applies to NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO, also we have CVCV, but with, for example, National Football League, right? National Football League, right? So we cannot use it as a word, but we have to use this string of sounds or letters. We use it, pronounce it. Sorry. So the NFL, we cannot use it as a word. Rather, we produce it or pronounce it as a string of letter names. NFL. We do not say Neffel or Naffel or Niffel. No, it is not possible, but we say NFL. We produce the names of the letters. So this is actually the politics of acronyms. Blending, actually, when we talk about blending, we talk about mixing things together, right? So here we say parts of two already existing words are put together. So here we say parts because we don't like to restrict ourselves to morphemes or syllables or letters. Because as we said, it is the ease to make, it is the ease of, it is the ease of articulation. So sometimes we blend parts, uh, part with a syllable with a syllable, syllable with a part with a part maybe. I don't think part with a part, but part with a syllable, right? So here, of two are existing, like for example, we have hotel, right? So we have motel, right? We have motel. So maybe it is M with hotel, right? So we cut the let's say the initial consonant, right? Which is the onset, the CVC, right? Here we cut the C, right? Which is the onset of the syllable, and we move with the rest. So we have for breakfast and lunch, we have brunch. So we cut the BR with unch. So we cut L and BR, right? So actually here we cut strings of sounds only, not syllables, not morphemes, right? Phonemes, they are just kind of phonemes. Smog for smoke and fog. Here we have SM, sm with og. So here we have CC with VC. Typically, dear students, typically in blending, the second word maintains its nucleus. It is its vowel of the syllable, and at the expense of the first word. Back formation, dear students, back formation is a very interesting phenomenon in the history of the languages, right? So for back formation, we say we have a suffix, and this suffix is identifiable from other words, which is cut off of a base which has previously not been a word. So this base then is used as a root and becomes a word through widespread use. So for example, we have pronunciate, which comes from pronunciation. So for example, so here in this language, we have, for example, okay. So here, so we have, for example, we have in English, we have communicate, communication, education, educate, sorry, education, educate, education, educate, education, educate. Now we have pronunciation. So the average people who are not well versed in the language and the laws and rules of the language would think that a pronunciation is taken from pronunciate, right? So at the beginning, people would deny and reject such a form like this pronunciation because there is already pronounce, right? So out of educate, communicate from communication, educate from education, we have pronunciate out of pronunciation, despite the fact that there is a form, a verb which is pronounce, right? So with the passage of time, maybe this form becomes acceptable in the language. This is, dear student, the gist of the so-called back formation. So we have pronunciate out of pronunciation, but the used one of the legal form is pronounce resurrection, right? Resurrect, right? Enthuse, right? Self-destruction. We have self-destruct out of destruction. So we have destroy, which is the correct one, and so on and so forth. So here we have they have this business of back formation. Okay, here we have examples. Here we have examples on back formation. So for example, here we have the word, and here we have the word, and we have the definition taken from Pulitzer Prizes. Actually, here we have a word, and we have the meaning that is a result of back formation. So here the people, by mistake, thought that the meaning is this because it depends or relies upon the single sounds that these words have. So they thought that the meaning is like this because it is similar to the form and the phonemes of the original form. So for example, we have the word here, deciduous. For example, we have the word deciduous, right? So just a minute. Okay. So the word deciduous, which means falling, this is the typical meaning. This is the correct meaning. The meaning taken from dictionaries like Cambridge Dictionary, like Oxford Dictionary, like Merriam Dictionary, and so on and so forth. So falling off or shed at, let's say, a particular season. This is the meaning, right? Deciduous trees, for example. But the children, when they listen, or adults, speakers, users of the language, when they first listen or hear this form, they thought that deciduous, like continuous, right? It is like ubiquitous, and so on and so forth, which means from decide, deciduous, to be able to make up one's mind. So they thought that it is taken from this side, deciduous. So the meaning is to be able to make up one's mind, to determine. Despite the fact this meaning is here, but actually it is not the correct one. The correct one is, as we said, it is the falling off or shed at a particular season. The same applies to fortuitous. So fortuitous means by chance, simply speaking, right? So they thought by mistake that it is well protected, right? uh, gubernatorial, gubernatorial, which is related to the governor. So we say a gubernatorial ceremony, for example, gubernatorial meeting or something like this. So they thought by mistake that gubernatorial has the meaning of to do with peanuts. Bibliography also, which means an index, list, catalog, and so on and so forth. By mistake, they thought that this is a holy geography because holy of Bible, like Bible, and geography from geography. Adamant, the same applies to adamant. Adamant here means inflexible, rigid, solid, stiff, something like this. But here, when they saw adamant, they thought that it's related to Adam alayhi salam. Adam, so adamant is taken from Adam, or in the Christian tradition, it is called the original. Okay, so they thought, so the meaning is inflexible, the meaning is solid, the meaning is, but they thought because it is Adam, right? They thought that it is pertaining to Adam alayhi salam. So diatribe, diatribe means angry speech, to have a kind diatribe, angry speech in public, but they thought that it is a food from dietary, dietitian, diet for the whole clan or for the whole tribe. And gullible, which means easily deceived or tricked, he is a gullible person. So they thought that it is related to the seabirds, seagulls. So these are examples, dear students, that we have at hand as a kind of representation for the actual difference in meaning between the dictionary meaning and the meaning as a result of back formation. Let's stop here. Thank you for listening.